Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriette Cole, so very happy to be with you today. Welcome, everyone. I hope that you are just enjoying the moment that you're in, and I thank you for trusting me to take this moment to pause. As the intro says, this is our pause to really take a moment to recognize the greatness within, and that is within each and every one of us. And sometimes we don't see that. Sometimes we don't tap into it. Too often we tap into other things. I spoke to a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist, Dr. Janet Taylor, and over time I talked to her and share her wisdom with others because she's just that brilliant person who is steeped in knowledge. And she told me that the human brain has thousands more negative thoughts than positive thoughts every minute. The things that go through the brain, that go through the mind, more of them are negative than positive. But it's not for a bad reason, it's for a good reason. The reason is that the mind wants to protect the body from whatever the outside circumstances might be. So there are constant signs of caution that flare up to let you know, don't step off the curb without looking both ways. Those things that our parents taught us. Make sure that you notice when there's a curb so you don't trip. Be aware of your surroundings and others who may be in front and back, beside you, who may be dangerous. And on and on and on. Look at the food that you're eating. Is this safe? Did it come from a place that I can trust? Questions of trust and awareness about where we are and who is in our company and what we do in the spaces and places where we find ourselves. Dr. Janet says the body and the brain tells us, be cautious, take note, don't just jump into something, pay attention. And that is good. But the brain also tells us worry. And in part, if you live in an environment where most things seem to be safe, then that high level of caution may not seem to be as necessary as if you were out in the jungle or in the woods or, in an environment where you may have less control over your circumstances. There's so many layers to that and things that we can think about, acknowledge when to be cautious and when not. What I want us to think about today is changing the focus that we may have just a bit, and changing that focus because we can fall into the negative. Oh, this is happening. Oh, this is awful. Why is this happening? Or we can look at a situation and find the positive within the situation. If we believe that we are in a safe space, then what do we see after that? Who do we include in our safe space so that we can feel that we are nurturing the environment around us, if we are considering that we want to be able to create an opportunity, a fertile opportunity to leap into our greatness, in order to do that, we have to be very selective about who and what gets to be in that space with us. Isn't that true? Why am I thinking about these things? Well, this week I'm celebrating my birthday, and I'm very grateful and honored to be able to live 365 more days, as they say, another turn around the sun. And I started officially celebrating yesterday with a birthday brunch. Of course, everyone couldn't come, but a number of people did come to join me. And as I looked around the room, what I saw was a room brimming with love. Like, if you could imagine people just looking like scintillating beams of light, that's what it felt like. That's what it looked like. Yes, people were dressed up because we had come to celebrate. Yes, they were relaxed because they knew they were in a safe place where they could just be themselves and share joy. And that had an energy around it that was bigger than any individual person. There was an energy that what we call love, what we know as joy and contentment, but also maybe even a bit of euphoria. Like, it was great to be in the company of wonderful people who had gathered to share love. And very naturally, the person I thought of first as I was looking around the room and taking it all in was my mother, Doris Cole, who is 93 years old right now. I talk about her a lot. Why? Because she's an incredible inspiration to me. She walks around, moves around, lives as like the pulsation of love. It's really true. Anybody who knows her will tell you that. She's a smile that warms up the room in everybody's heart. Where she lives now, in an assisted living facility, all the people who interact with her say how much they love her and how kind she is to them. The reason for that is her choices. She chooses to see through the lens of love. Even when she's frustrated, she chooses to see the positive in a situation. And I want to say to you, that is not easy. When you are frustrated, when things are not going the way that you want, when limitations on your physical being, on your mind, on the actions of others seem really tough to accept, it is so easy to slip into the negative. Remember, Dr. Janet said those negative thoughts are always there. It is so easy to point your finger at somebody else and say, this is your fault. The reason this is happening to me, whatever this is because of you or that or this environment, these circumstances. And by the way, sometimes that may be true. Sometimes you have to stand up and fight for things to make sure that you get what is needed in the moment and what you deserve in the moment. But what my mother says is, even in those moments when you have to turn on the fire, when you have to stand up, wave the flag, write the note, give a bit of a tongue lashing, you can still do it with love. That's so powerful to me, and I have watched her live this for my entire life. Even more, going back to the birthday gathering, I have watched her, and when my father was living, the two of them curate experiences for the three of us, my sisters and myself, as well as their friend group, that were uplifted experiences, experiences where people came together looking beautiful, feeling beautiful, choosing to be in each other's company and to share love and joy. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you have, but it does matter what your attitude is to create an environment like that. to choose to see through the lens of love. And because I've witnessed it my whole life, it is something that I work to do myself. And it works. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to India. I serve on the board of a charitable organization called Prasad, which is headquartered in India, although it also has uh, a presence in the United States and in Mexico. And what we do is to help people who are in tremendous need to help themselves. We work hand in hand with them with women in self-help groups to build businesses so that they can provide income for their families as well. We go into extremely rural neighborhoods, what my husband calls in Jamaica the bush. They don't call it that in India, but really rural areas where they don't have running water and they don't have toilets. And we help them build toilets and build wells so that they can have clean water. There are many services that are offered. But why I'm mentioning it now is because each of the times that I've been there, what I have seen is people walking with dignity and respect and exuding like a core level of love for each other and for the environment in which they live that is unflappable. It is from the core, and it exudes from the core outward. This sense of, I want to say ownership, but it's really love of where they live and who they are and their families and their communities. And these are people who have very few resources. So I remember the first time I went, I noticed that there were a lot of people, young children all the way to elders, who had no shoes. So they were walking on many roads that were not paved. And their feet, because they did not have shoes, over time, bottoms of their feet had turned almost to leather. Because the human body is that great. It conforms to the moment. And I thought to myself, wow, how many shoes do I have? And what are the things I complain about that don't matter at all? And what amount of bounty is in my life that these people don't have? And yet, what they have times a gazillion is an inner respect, a sense of self, and commitment to community that you can't buy with money. And I've observed those people who I'm very excited to visit in a couple of weeks through an understanding that though our lives are different, there's a connection. We did connect. We connected in a way that said humanity is bigger than anything. Connecting to each other heart to heart, even if you don't speak the language, you figure out certain things that speak without particular words. And of course, they're translators, so we get to talk to each other. But the heart translation is bigger than anything else. That connection of love from one to another is so incredibly powerful, and I think makes you recognize that you're not alone. Now, I live in New York City, a huge place with millions of people. And I know myself, as well as so many other people, there are times when, if you tell the truth, you feel alone. You feel like, wow, how am I here? And yet, next door to me, in my home, wherever I go, there are other people, but there's a sense of loneliness that I may feel. Have you all ever felt that before? If you're honest, most people have. I looked on social the other day, and a good friend of mine who lives in Oregon, who, like myself, has one child, and her child is away at college. She lives alone, and she was saying she really felt alone. I understand that because it happens. It's the weirdest thing. No matter how many people are part of your life, sometimes you can feel alone, really alone. Like nobody understands you. Nobody is in that sphere when you feel in that space of emptiness. If you tell the truth, it has probably happened to you. My friend said it out loud, and I hope that she received the flood of love and support that came to her very honestly, not people, not lip service, just people who love her, who reached out. Well, so what happened yesterday for my birthday celebration was the outreach turned into a gathering. And many people knew each other, some did not. But because the stage was set for sharing love, that is what happened. And I talked to people after, and many people talked to folks they didn't know before, but because they felt safe, they talked fully. They sometimes, and I just learned this from a couple of people, they went below the surface to something that might be tender that they're dealing with because they felt safe to share it in that moment. Isn't that what we want in life? When you live your life looking through a lens of love, what happens? What happens? I think that everything softens. That rather than, having your guard up and feeling like you have to say the right thing or do the right thing or prove that you are better than whoever is around you or, whatever those things are that are also part of human nature. Somehow they fall away, they melt, almost like butter. And you can just be. There was a friend who I invited whose partner recently and suddenly passed away. A lovely woman who, here's how we never know when our time is coming. Of all the people, you would think she would outlive all of us. She appeared to be very healthy, just a salt of the earth person, tremendous style. And she and my friend George had, I think, just been dating maybe for 2 or 3 years, recent times. And he told me that he's 73 years old. And he thought that this is what his life was going to be, that he had met this wonderful woman. They were absolutely in love. And this was going to be their life until his life was done. And he was certain that he would live longer than she. And that's not what happened. Our mutual friend, I'd said, do you think I should invite him to this birthday gathering? Because, when you've had loss so recently, sometimes you could be too tender. But our friend Alice said, no, invite him. This could be great. And it was. He was able to talk to me and to other friends and to share big, warm hugs and to acknowledge the wonderful life he had with his partner and to know that life continues, that love abounds, that we are here for him at this moment. We know that life and death and loss and healing and joy and all the other things are part of what it means to live. And yet, one of the things that has occurred for all of us, and it's just opening up now, we had 2 good years, and then maybe not so good, 2 full years of being isolated, being in quarantine. Human beings don't want that. We literally need to be in each other's company and to touch each other. The studies that have proven when babies are in ICU and they don't have human touch, they often perish because they need the actual physical connection to another human being, to another life, in order to stay alive and to prosper. Well, think of what happens if, A, we had all that time where we couldn't be with each other. We could just use a broadcast, if that. Thank God for broadcasts where we could see each other and talk to each other. But think about the people who aren't surrounded by love. The people who have so much negativity in their world that is what it gets amplified. There's another example, and I love examples because I think it helps us to imagine our own lives, to imagine the possibilities and also the things that don't work so well. So there's a project that I'm working on now, a wonderful project. And one of the people in leadership on this project is very negative. I don't know her well enough to know why. What I do know is that she bristles at most things. There's a tremendous amount of negativity that kind of surrounds her. And from my perspective, when I see her, I see that. And it's hard to make the effort to be softer and loving and kind when what's coming at you is something really negative. And so that's where meditation comes in. Okay, how can I sit with this and look at the situation differently and offer the best healing energy that I have to the moment to create a better space for engagement? The jury's out. I haven't figured it out yet, but what I know is if I continue to look through a loving lens, I have a chance. If I succumb to negativity, there is no chance because on one side there's already negativity. That shows, I hope, that what I share during these inspiration broadcasts, it's not like a magic pill that you take and everything is going to be great. Absolutely not. It is practicing the act of loving and looking through a loving lens can potentially create space for everyone who's in your midst to enter into that loving space and to soften their gaze, to consider the possibility rather than hold on to something negative. It's something we can practice because all of us find ourselves in negative thinking sometimes. And it's something that we can offer energetically to others. And it doesn't mean that we're weak when we offer kindness. You might still have to be tough as tough. But if you offer kindness in a space where there's a swirl of negativity, you may be able to cut through the negativity to get to a better place. I want to go to our quote. Really mainly it's about my mother talking about looking through a loving lens. But this one is from St. Ignatius. I thought you would like it. It says, love is shown more in deeds than in words. Love is shown more in deeds than in words. Now, think about that. How often have you heard that? There's probably a mama, a daddy, a teacher, a minister, somebody who's told you that, well, one of the things my mother used to say is pretty is as pretty does. People would come up to my sisters and me, oh, and my mother, oh, you're such pretty little girls. And my mother would look at us and say, pretty is as pretty does. Don't get carried away with whatever you think you look like. And I'm going to add to that, whatever you think you have, whatever you think you're worth. What you are worth is how you treat others. What are those deeds? How do you move through space? How do you walk through the world? And, part of what we do here at Dreamleapers Inspiration is to prepare ourselves for those moments that are challenging, that are tender, that are fraught with a lot of energy that we may not want. When everything is going well, you don't need help. You just enjoy the moment. Savor it. It's when things are challenging that we need support, right? When it's so easy to complain or fret or pull the covers over your head or give up. When you're in those spaces, that's when you need to call on inspiration, draw you out of that space into a better world. And St. Ignatius says, love is shown more in deeds than in words. What you do, how you talk to people, how you spend your time, the people with whom you interact. Think about how you spend your time. Just think about what you plan to do today. What's on your agenda? If you've been following Dreamleapers Inspiration for a while, you should have made an agenda last night. right? That's what I learned years ago. You make your agenda the night before, you wake up in the morning, you're executing your plan. Did you do that? If you didn't, it's not too late when this broadcast is over. Make your plan and begin to execute it. But it's best to do it the night before. So when you get up, you are simply enacting the plan that you put in place. What's on your list? What is it that you have to do? Is everything that's on your list important? Is it wise for you to amend your list? To consider, does that need to go on there? Or what else needs to be on there? You know, for me, when I get really busy, I put things on my list well, I always put things on my list to take care of myself. I didn't do that before. I would only have work on the list. I put drink water, move my body, because I don't know if you're anything like me, but sometimes when it gets busy, I'm sitting in this chair too many hours a day. My watch starts screaming. I was on a Zoom call with a colleague a few days ago, and we got to the point of about an hour, and I was using my arms. So I had my hands up like this. I don't have my watch on now, but I normally do. And she said, "Oh, it's time to go, Harry. Your watch is telling you to stand up." So I literally have a device that if I don't get up and move every hour, it tells me to. Time to stand, it says. Sometimes it reminds me I should meditate or do deep breathing. Literally, this is a device that many of you may have that talks to me. Whatever it takes to create a sense of balance and to remind you of making good choices. Now, I have the device, but I also write the things down and I check them off. And I make the list of things to do manageable chunks, so that I'm not ending up at the end of the day going, oh my gosh, that was too big. I couldn't do that. Break it down into manageable parts and then you can do it. You know, what do you need to tackle that you haven't tackled? Put it on your list for an hour a day when you have energy to tackle that thing that's tough for you. Don't do what you may have done when you were in school and the toughest class, the toughest exam to study for, you wait until the last minute to work on it. Don't do that. Put it first. Put it at the time whenever, because first may not be your big energy time. Whenever your big energy time is, put that task that you've been putting off there. And then approach it through a loving lens. So that the deed, what you do, is offered in love, and the result is going to give you energy because you have accomplished something that was really important to you. It may not make sense right now, but it works. And why this is important, everybody, it's during those times when you feel tense, when you feel stretched, when you feel unhappy, you feel anxious, you feel worried, you feel exhausted, you feel anything other than balanced. In those moments, take a breath, survey your landscape, what's on your list of things to do, prioritize those things, and then approach them through a loving lens. Surround yourself with people who will support the upliftment of you and your goals through a loving, honest lens. That does not mean yes people, by the way. It means people who will support you. As we close, I want to go back to this wonderful birthday celebration that I had. It came together in a blink. A few days, I just said, oh, I have to do this. Not every single person that I love was there, but there was a representation of people that I love and who love me. What I'm going to do moving forward, which is a practice that I have anyhow, but even more consciously, is to make sure that I connect regularly with people that I love and who love me. Just checking in, past how are you doing, to getting to a sense of really how are you doing. If there's tender stuff going on, perhaps together we can look at it and help each other move forward. And keeping myself on that list. How am I tending to me? What deeds am I enacting that take care of myself? Because it's so easy. You could do what I just suggested, tending to, connecting to all these people you love, and still wear yourself out and not take care of yourself. You got to put yourself at the top of the list. Tend to you first. Make those loving actions that St. Ignatius talked about. Start with how you take care of you, and then span out to who you choose to be part of your world and how you engage those people, and what thoughts, words, and deeds help to fuel and energize your life. It's worth it. I hope you will take the time to do that. So let's look at the quote one more time before we go. Love is shown more in deeds than in words. Love is shown more in deeds than in words, St. Ignatius. So go out today. Make your deeds reflect the love in your heart. Do something for yourself and for others that shares your love. This is absolutely a way to tap into your greatness. It works, everybody, and you can do it. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.